Smoke filled the air. Buildings that once reached for the stars now lay in ruins. The great cities of Earth had fallen. 6 days had passed since the last human battleship exploded in orbit. 6 days of silence from Earth Command. 6 days of collective victory celebrations. Captain James Reed opened his eyes to darkness. His head hurt. Something warm and sticky ran down his face. Blood. His blood. He tried to move and pain shot through his body. Slowly, carefully, he pushed aside the concrete slab that had shielded him when Earth Command collapsed. "Anyone alive?" he called out, his voice hoarse from dust and disuse. Silence answered him at first, then a weak cough somewhere to his left. "Here," a woman's voice said. "I'm still here." Reed crawled toward the sound, finding Lieutenant Parker half buried under a fallen desk. Her leg was trapped, but she seemed otherwise unharmed. Together, they worked to free her. "How long?" Parker asked as Reed helped her stand. 6 days, I think," Reed replied, checking his watch. The Special Forces timepiece had survived the attack. The command bunker took a direct hit. Then we lost. Parker's voice cracked. Reed didn't answer immediately. They both knew what had happened. The collective had come 3 years ago, with their massive ships and advanced weapons. Humanity fought hard, but was outmatched. The final assault on Earth Command was meant to be the end. "We need to find others," Reed said instead. They searched through the rubble, finding 5 more survivors. A communications tech named Wilson, 2 security officers, and 2 more soldiers. 7 humans alive in what had been humanity's last stronghold. 50 miles above Earth, Overseer Dex watched the blue planet through the viewing portal of the collective command ship. Victory tasted sweet. The humans had fought well, better than expected, but the outcome was never in doubt. The resource extraction teams report successful establishment of mining operations in all major regions, his assistant reported. Minimal resistance encountered. "Excellent," Dex replied. "And the remaining human population? Scattered and disorganized. Our scouts report small groups hiding in remote areas, but nothing of concern. Without their military structure, they pose no threat." Dex nodded, his elongated head reflecting the blue light from Earth. "Begin Phase 2. I want extraction rates doubled by the end of the month. The Central Authority is pleased with our progress. There is one anomaly," Overseer, his assistant added. "Several outposts have reported unusual seismic readings from the ocean floors. Earth is geologically active." "It's nothing." Dex dismissed the concern with a wave of his 4-fingered hand. "The humans are defeated, their armies destroyed, their navies sunk, their air forces shot from the skies. What remains is merely cleanup." Admiral Elena Voss was not dead, despite what the collective believed. The destruction of her battleship, the UES Defiant, had been carefully staged. As the collective celebration continued above, she sat in a small control room 3 miles beneath the Pacific Ocean. "Status report," she ordered. Commander Lewis, her second in command, handed her a tablet. "Deepwater stations 2 through 17 all report ready status. Station 1 is at 92% capacity. Stations 18 and 19 were damaged during activation, but repairs are underway." Voss studied the reports. When the collective first arrived, Earth's unified government had enacted dozens of last resort protocols. Most were known to military leadership, but Protocol Jerusalem B8 was different, classified beyond top secret, known only to a handful of people around the world. For 20 years before the invasion, humanity had secretly built massive underwater complexes, the deepwater stations. Hidden beneath the oceans, these self-sufficient installations housed millions of people, advanced manufacturing facilities, and a military force unlike anything on the surface. "Begin Phase 1 transmission," Voss ordered. Lewis nodded and entered a command sequence. Throughout Earth's oceans, hidden transmitters activated, sending a low-frequency signal that traveled through water and ground. To most, it would seem like natural ocean noise, but to those who knew what to listen for, It carried a message. We are not defeated. The drums are beating. Reed and his small group of survivors had made it out of the ruined command bunker. They moved carefully through the destroyed city, avoiding collective patrols. The aliens were everywhere, their smooth exoskeletons gleaming in the sunlight as they supervised automated mining machines that tore into the earth. "Where are we going, Captain?" Parker asked as they took shelter in an abandoned subway tunnel. Reed checked his watch again. Every hour on the hour, he held it close to his ear. The others thought he was checking if it still worked. "We need to reach the coast," he finally answered. "East to the Atlantic. That's 300 miles through collective territory." Wilson, the communications tech, protested. "We'll never make it. We have to try," Reed said firmly. He didn't explain further. Couldn't explain that his watch wasn't just telling time. It was receiving something. A pattern of vibration so subtle only the Special Forces timepieces could detect it. A pattern he recognized from his classified briefing 2 years ago. 3 long pulses, 2 short, 3 long again. Drumbeats. At Collective Outpost 37, located on what had once been a coastal fishing village, Science Officer Mira noticed something strange. The seismic sensors were picking up an unusual pattern of vibrations from the ocean floor. "Probable submarine volcanic activity," her assistant suggested. "No," Mira said, studying the readings more carefully. "It's too regular. Too rhythmic." She adjusted the sensors, amplifying the signal. When she converted the vibrations to sound, a chill ran through her body. It sounded like beating drums, slow, steady, deliberate. "Should we report this to command?" her assistant asked. Mira hesitated. Overseer Dex had made it clear Earth was secured. Any suggestion otherwise might be seen as questioning his authority. "Continue monitoring," she decided. "If it persists, we'll report it." As the sun set on the 7th day of occupation, the collective continued their victory celebrations. They had crushed Earth's military, destroyed its cities, and begun extracting its resources. The war was over. Or so they thought. Deep beneath the oceans, in hidden chambers shielded from detection, humanity was not defeated. Engineers brought massive factories online. Scientists finalized weapons designed specifically to target collective weaknesses. Soldiers trained in specialized underwater combat suits. And through the waters of Earth, a rhythmic signal continued to spread, reaching survivors, activating sleeper agents, growing stronger each day. The enemy thought they had won. They would soon learn otherwise. The war drums were just beginning to beat. 2 months had passed since Earth fell to the collective. The alien invaders had established extraction colonies across the planet's surface. Giant machines tore into mountains and forests, taking whatever resources the collective needed. Most humans who survived the initial attacks now hid in remote areas, struggling to stay alive. Captain James Reed and his small group of survivors had been moving east for weeks. They traveled at night, hiding during the day. Their journey had not been easy. Twice they nearly walked into collective patrols. Once they had to hide for 3 days when a collective scout ship hovered over the forest they were passing through. But the coded pulses in Reed's watch kept coming, guiding them forward. The drumbeats had become stronger and clearer. "We're getting close," Reed told the others as they rested in an abandoned farmhouse. "Maybe 2 more days of travel." "Close to what?" Wilson asked. The communications tech had asked this question many times during their journey. "You still haven't told us what we're looking for." Reed looked at his tired companions. They deserved to know something. "Hope," he said simply. "We're looking for hope." Commander Kell of Collective Intelligence stood before Overseer Dex, trying to keep his posture straight despite his exhaustion. 17 scout ships have gone missing in the past month, Kell reported, all near coastal regions or over deep ocean areas. Dex's large eyes narrowed. Mechanical failures, weather conditions. Unlikely. The disappearances follow a pattern. "And there's more," Kell continued. "Our primary extraction platform in the North Atlantic region was destroyed 3 days ago. Destroyed. How? Dex demanded. Unknown. The platform reported unusual vibrations in the water below. Then all communication ceased. When our ships arrived, nothing remained but floating debris. Dex turned to the viewing portal, watching Earth's blue surface. The victory that had seemed so complete now felt less certain. Increase patrols in all ocean regions, he ordered, and send a message to Central Authority. Request additional security forces. Sir, Kell said hesitantly, some of our scientists have noted patterns in the seismic activity. They believe it may be artificial. Meaning what? Meaning someone may be sending signals through the ocean floor. Dex was silent for a long moment. Find the source, he finally ordered. Whatever it is, eliminate it. Deep beneath the Atlantic Ocean, Admiral Elena Voss studied the holographic display showing all 19 deepwater stations. Most glowed green, indicating full operational status. A few showed yellow, still coming online or dealing with minor issues. Deepwater 7 reports their manufacturing centers are at full capacity, Commander Lewis reported. They've completed the first batch of Poseidon suits. Voss nodded with satisfaction. The Poseidon combat suits were a key part of their strategy. Advanced armor designed for underwater combat, but equally effective on land or in air. And the Leviathan vessels. The first 3 are ready for deployment. 6 more will be completed within the week. Voss allowed herself a small smile. For 20 years, Earth had prepared for the possibility of alien invasion by building these hidden underwater bases. While the surface military fought conventional battles, Deepwater waited, hidden and safe, ready to strike when the enemy thought they had won. What about the surface teams? Voss asked. Captain Reed's group should reach Inlet Point tomorrow. Dr. Wells is already there to meet them. Dr. Marcus Wells was one of the chief engineers who had designed the deepwater stations. He had been on the surface when the final attack came, making his way to one of the secret entry points. Good, Voss said. It's time to increase the tempo. She pressed a sequence on her control panel. Throughout Earth's oceans, the drumbeat signals increased in strength and frequency. The pace was quickening, the rhythm building. Reed and his team reached the coastal town near midnight. Once a popular beach destination, it now stood empty and partially destroyed. The collective had little interest in small towns with no strategic or resource value. This way, Reed said, leading them toward the shoreline. We came all this way for the ocean, Parker asked, confusion in her voice. Before Reed could answer, a figure stepped out from behind a damaged beach house. Reed reached for his weapon, then stopped. The man was human, older, with gray hair and glasses. Captain Reed, the man asked. I'm Dr. Marcus Wells. I've been waiting for you. Reed checked his watch. The drumbeats led us here. Wells smiled. Yes, the drumbeat protocol is working perfectly. Follow me, please. He led them to what looked like an old boathouse at the end of a pier. Inside, Wells moved to what appeared to be a normal wall and pressed his hand against it. A hidden door slid open, revealing a narrow elevator. What is this place? Wilson asked as they all crowded into the elevator. The entrance to our salvation, Wells replied. He pressed a button, and the elevator began to descend. Welcome to Deepwater. The elevator dropped for what seemed like forever. When it finally stopped and the doors opened, Reed and his team gasped in amazement. They stood at the edge of an enormous underwater city. Massive domes connected by tunnels spread out before them. Buildings rose within the domes. People moved about everywhere. And in large construction bays, they could see advanced weapons and vehicles being assembled. This is impossible, Parker whispered. Not impossible, Dr. Wells said. Just secret. While the collective thought they were fighting all of humanity, they were only fighting what we allowed them to see. He led them to a transport vehicle that carried them through a tunnel into the main dome. As they traveled, Wells explained, there are 19 deepwater installations around the world. Each houses between 50,000 and 2 million people. We have manufacturing, agriculture, power generation, everything we need to survive and rebuild. How long has this existed? Reed asked. 20 years, ever since our deep space telescopes first detected the collective fleet. We knew they might come someday. We prepared. The transport stopped at a large building in the center of the dome. As they entered, Reed saw a familiar face waiting for them. Admiral Voss. He said in disbelief, "Your ship was destroyed." "That's what we wanted the collective to believe," Voss replied with a smile. "Welcome to Deepwater Command, Captain." She led them to a war room where a large holographic display showed Earth and the positions of collective forces. "For 2 months, we've been gathering strength, testing their defenses, learning their weaknesses," Voss explained. "Now we're ready to begin real operations." "The collective thinks they've won," Dr. Wells added. "They have no idea what's coming." "And what is coming?" Reed asked. Admiral Voss's face hardened with determination. "War, Captain. But this time, on our terms." On the collective command ship, Science Officer Mira burst into Overseer Dex's quarters without permission. "Overseer, you need to see this," she said urgently, activating her datapad. The screen showed a recording from a coastal monitoring station. In the video, the water near a collective mining platform began to churn and bubble. Then something massive rose from the depths, a sleek, black vessel unlike any human ship the collective had encountered before. The vessel fired once. The mining platform erupted in flames. And just before the recording ended, the monitoring station picked up a sound, a rhythmic, pounding beat that echoed through the water. "War drums." "What is that?" Dex demanded. Mira's voice shook as she answered. "I believed, sir, that we may have made a serious miscalculation about human capabilities. Far below, in the oceans of Earth, humanity was awakening. The drums were getting louder." 6 months had passed since the collective claimed victory over Earth. What began as scattered attacks against their outposts had grown into something more organized, more dangerous. In the past month alone, 17 major mining operations had been destroyed. 34 ships had vanished. Supply lines were disrupted. And always before each attack came the sound of drums. High Commander Vex stepped off his ship onto the deck of Overseer Dex's command vessel. He had been sent directly from the collective's homeworld to assess the situation. This was supposed to be a completed conquest, Vex said coldly as he walked with Dex to the command center. "The Central Authority is displeased with your progress reports." "The humans had contingencies we did not anticipate," Dex replied, trying to hide his nervousness. "They had prepared for our arrival." "Impossible. Our analysis indicated they had no knowledge of our existence until our fleet entered their system. Nevertheless, they were ready." Dex activated a holographic display showing Earth's oceans. "We've detected energy signatures from deep underwater. Our scouts cannot penetrate beyond certain depths without losing contact." "Because of their technology?" Vex asked. "Because of the water itself," Dex explained. "Our ships and sensors are not designed for deep ocean environments. The pressure crushes our drones. The water blocks our scans." Vex's eyes narrowed. "Are you saying you cannot defeat primitives because of water? 2/3 of their planet is covered in it. How did you not account for this?" Before Dex could answer, alarms blared throughout the ship. "Multiple contacts rising from the Atlantic region," an officer reported. "They're attacking our primary processing station." On the display, dozens of sleek vessels emerged from the ocean depths. Unlike the human ships the collective had destroyed during the initial invasion, these were smaller, faster, and seemed to phase through water like it wasn't there. "What are those?" Vex demanded. Dex had no answer. Captain Reed stood on the bridge of the Leviathan-class submarine Defiance. Through the advanced viewing screens, he watched as Poseidon strike teams attacked the collective processing station. The Poseidon suits gave their wearers incredible strength and speed, whether underwater or on land. All teams reporting successful breaches. Lieutenant Telly Arias reported from the communication station. Collective forces are in disarray. Reed nodded. Begin broadcast. Reyes pressed a sequence on her control panel. Immediately, powerful speakers on the Defiance and all other attack vessels began emitting the now familiar drumbeat. The rhythmic pounding echoed through water and air. Reed had learned that the drums served multiple purposes. They were a psychological weapon against the collective, whose sensitive hearing made the low-frequency beats physically painful. They were a rallying signal for human resistance fighters on the surface. And they were a timing mechanism, helping coordinate attacks across vast distances. "Sir," Reyes called out, "Admiral Voss is requesting you return to Deepwater Command after the operation." They've awakened him. Reed knew immediately who she meant. General Thomas Grant, the legendary commander who had led Earth's forces during the early days of the invasion before being critically wounded. He had been placed in cryosleep in Deepwater 1, waiting for the day when he would be needed again. That day has come, Reed thought. Director Anna Hayes stood at the window of her office in Deepwater 1, watching the vast underwater city at work. As civilian leader of the Deepwater government, she had overseen the transition from waiting to fighting. A knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. "Come in," she called. Admiral Voss entered, followed by a tall man with a stern face and gray hair. Despite months in cryosleep, General Grant stood straight and strong. "Director Hayes," Voss said, "General Grant has been fully briefed on our situation." Hayes nodded. "Welcome back, General. We've been saving a war for you." "So I hear," Grant replied, his voice deep and gravelly. "I've reviewed the battle reports. Your Deepwater forces have performed admirably. But it's time to take the next step." "The surface," Hayes guessed. "Yes, we can't win this war from hiding. We need to reclaim the land." Hayes turned back to the window. "We've spent 6 months building our strength, striking from the shadows. Are we ready to face them directly?" "We won't be alone," Grant said. "Our drumbeat broadcasts have reached resistance groups worldwide. They're waiting for the signal to rise up together." Hayes considered this. Millions of humans still survived on the surface, hiding in mountains, forests, and ruins. Many had heard the drums. Many were ready to fight. "Very well," she finally said. "When do we begin?" "Immediately," Grant answered. "I've already asked Admiral Voss to prepare Operation Thunderstrike." Hayes raised an eyebrow at Voss, who had the grace to look slightly embarrassed for moving ahead before approval. "It's a full-scale assault on their main processing centers," Voss explained, "coordinated with surface resistance groups. If successful, it will cripple their resource extraction operations and force them to pull back to defensive positions." "And the drums?" Hayes asked. "Will beat louder than ever," Grant promised. Reed returned to Deepwater 12 hours later. The attack had been completely successful. Not only had they destroyed the processing station, but they had captured intact collective technology and taken prisoners, the first live collective specimens for study. He was immediately summoned to the command center, where he found Admiral Voss, General Grant, and Director Hayes gathered around a holographic display of Earth. "Captain Reed," Grant greeted him. "Your reputation is well earned. Excellent work on the operation." "Thank you, sir," Reed replied, somewhat in awe of the legendary general. "We're moving to the next phase," Voss explained, gesturing to the display. Red dots marked collective strongholds around the globe. Operation Thunderstrike will target these facilities simultaneously. Surface teams will coordinate with Deepwater forces, Grant added. Your team will lead the assault on their Eastern Command Center. Reed studied the plans. It was ambitious and dangerous. But after 6 months of strikes from the shadows, perhaps it was time to bring the fight into the open. "There's one more thing you should see," Hayes said. She nodded to a technician, who activated another display. A video began playing, showing what appeared to be a test chamber. Inside, a collective soldier was restrained. When a low-frequency drumbeat began playing, the alien writhed in obvious pain, purple blood seeping from its hearing organs. Their auditory systems are far more sensitive than we realized, Hayes explained. Dr. Wells has developed devices that can amplify our drumbeat broadcasts to debilitating levels. Sound is a weapon, Reed said thoughtfully. Exactly, Grant confirmed. We hit them with the drums. Then we hit them with everything else. High Commander Vex stood amid the ruins of what had been their largest processing station. Around him, collective soldiers searched for survivors and salvageable equipment. They came from below, Commander Kell reported. Our sensors gave only seconds of warning. And the sound? Vex asked. This drumming they broadcast. It seems to be their signature, a psychological tactic perhaps. Vex wasn't convinced it was merely psychological. He had heard the recordings. Something about the rhythmic beats disturbed him on a physical level. We must adapt, he said finally. Double our orbital patrols. Deploy our remaining ships to defensive positions, and send word to Central Authority. We need reinforcements. As he spoke, his personal communicator chimed with an urgent alert. All across Earth, collective installations were reporting the same thing. Energy signatures rising from the oceans, approaching fast. And with them came the sound of drums, louder than ever before. The humans were no longer hiding. They were coming. 1 year had passed since Earth fell to the collective. What the aliens had thought would be a simple occupation had turned into a desperate struggle. The humans, far from defeated, had emerged from their ocean depths with weapons and technology that matched or even surpassed the collective's own. Operation Thunderstrike had changed everything. In a single day, human forces had destroyed or captured 37 major collective installations around the globe. Thousands of collective soldiers had fallen. Dozens of ships had been shot from the sky. And now, 3 months later, the war for Earth's surface was in full swing. Colonel William Drake stood on a hill overlooking what had once been Chicago. Parts of the city still burned from the battle that had raged for 3 days. His surface reclamation team had finally driven the last collective forces out the previous night. Status report. He called into his radio. All sectors secured, came the reply from his second-in-command. We found over 200 human survivors hiding in the underground train tunnels. Drake nodded with satisfaction. Rescuing survivors was just as important as defeating the enemy. Every human saved was another potential fighter, another piece of humanity reserved. Get them food and medical attention, he ordered. Then have them moved to the safe zone. He turned as a Poseidon transport rose from Lake Michigan behind him. The sleek vessel hovered above the water before gliding toward the shore. When it landed, the side hatch opened to reveal Captain Reed. Colonel, Reed greeted him, stepping onto the muddy ground. Congratulations on taking back Chicago. Couldn't have done it without those sonic cannons your deepwater engineers provided, Drake replied, shaking Reed's hand. The collective troops ran as soon as we started broadcasting the drums through them. Reed nodded. The discovery that the collective's sensitive hearing made them vulnerable to certain frequencies had been a game-changer. Now, every human attack began with powerful sonic weapons broadcasting the rhythmic war drums. The effect was devastating. Collective soldiers experienced intense pain, confusion, and often bleeding from their auditory organs. Command sent me to brief you on the next phase, Reed said. We're pushing east, all the way to the Atlantic. Emissary Lorne was not a warrior. Before the Earth invasion, he had been a scholar, studying other species. Now, as the collective's situation grew more desperate, the Central Authority had sent him to attempt what their military leaders could not achieve: peace. High Commander Vex was not pleased by Lorne's arrival. Negotiation is surrender, Vex argued as they stood in what remained of the command ship's strategy room. We cannot show weakness. The Central Authority disagrees, Lorne replied calmly. We have lost 23% of our invasion force. Resource extraction is at 12% of projected levels. This campaign is failing. We underestimated them, Vex admitted reluctantly. They had preparations we did not detect. Underwater civilizations we did not know about. Yes, Lorne said. And now we must face reality. The humans have proven more resourceful than any species we have encountered. If we cannot defeat them quickly, we must find another solution. Before Vex could respond, the familiar alarm sounded. More attacks. More drums. Chief Engineer Morgan Taylor walked through the massive factory floor of Deepwater 4. All around her, workers assembled the newest generation of weapons in Earth's arsenal. Hybrid technology that combined human innovation with captured collective science. The Mark HFY sonic cannons are ready for deployment, she told Admiral Voss, who had come to inspect the progress personally. Twice the range of the previous model, and we've modified the frequency to target their neural systems more effectively. Voss nodded approvingly. And the mobile units. Taylor led her to another section of the factory, where smaller, portable versions of the sonic weapons were being loaded onto transport vehicles. Every surface team will have them within a week, Taylor explained. And we've also developed these. She held up what looked like a simple wristwatch. Personal sonic emitters. They don't have the power of the larger weapons, but they'll give our soldiers protection in close combat. Excellent work, Voss said. She looked around at the bustle of activity. A year ago, we were hiding. Now we're pushing them back across the entire planet. It's not over yet, Taylor cautioned. Their orbital platforms are still operational, and our intel suggests they've called for reinforcements. All the more reason to move quickly, Voss replied. Director Hayes is meeting with their emissary tomorrow. Taylor looked surprised. They want to talk. They want to survive, Voss said grimly. The meeting took place on a small island in the Pacific. Director Hayes arrived in a heavily armed deepwater vessel, accompanied by General Grant and a security team. The collective representatives, Emissary Lorne and Commander Kell, came in a small shuttle. They sat across from each other at a simple table set up on the beach. You have proven formidable, Lorne began, his translator converting his speech to English. The collective recognizes your right to defend your world. How generous, Hayes replied dryly. After you tried to conquer it. We believed your civilization was limited to the surface, Lorne explained. Our studies showed no evidence of your underwater habitats or advanced sonic weapons. We kept them hidden for exactly this reason, Grant said. We've been preparing for possible invasion for decades. Lorne's large eyes blinked slowly. The collective proposes a ceasefire. We will withdraw from certain regions, maintaining only essential resource collection operations. Hayes and Grant exchanged looks. This was not an offer of peace. It was a request for breathing room. Unacceptable, Hayes said firmly. Complete withdrawal from Earth and its orbit. That is our only term. Impossible. Commander Kell interjected. We have invested too much. The Central Authority would never. He stopped suddenly, his head tilting as if listening. From the water behind the human delegation, a low sound began to rise. The now familiar rhythm of war drums. You brought weapons to a peace meeting, Kell demanded, his translator unable to hide the fear in his voice. Not weapons, Hayes corrected him. A reminder. That sound you hear. It's coming from 20 miles away. Imagine what our new long-range sonic cannons can do from that distance. As if to emphasize her point, the drumbeat grew louder. Kell began to shake visibly. Even Lorne seemed uncomfortable. Take our message to your Central Authority, General Grant said. Full withdrawal, or we continue our campaign. The drums will follow your ships wherever they go. Back on the collective command ship, High Commander Vex received the report from the failed negotiation. They refuse anything but our complete surrender, Lorne explained. And they demonstrated new sonic weapons that can reach incredible distances. Vex turned to the viewing screen showing Earth below. So much blue, so much water. How could they have misjudged so badly? Begin preparations for a fighting withdrawal, he ordered. We will consolidate our forces at key defensive positions while we await reinforcements. And if reinforcements don't come, Kell asked quietly. Vex had no answer. In the distance, they could hear it. the steady beat of drums growing louder with each passing day. 18 months after the collective had declared victory over Earth, their remaining forces huddled in fortified positions around their last major command center. What had begun as a simple conquest had turned into the worst military disaster in collective history. Their once mighty invasion fleet was reduced to a handful of damaged ships. Their resource extraction operations had completely ceased, and still the drums kept beating. High Commander Vex stared at the tactical display with mounting despair. The human forces were closing in from all sides. Surface teams from the west, aerial attacks from the south, and from the east, from the Atlantic Ocean, came the dreaded deepwater fleets. The reinforcements from Central Authority, he asked Commander Kell, though he already knew the answer. No response to our latest communication, Kell replied grimly. I believe they may have abandoned us. Vex nodded slowly. It made strategic sense. The Central Authority had many worlds under its control. Why waste resources on a failed invasion? How long until the humans reach our position? Hours, Kell said. Their advance is steady. And the drums? He didn't need to finish. They could all hear them. A constant, pounding rhythm that grew louder each day. Prepare for final defense, Vex ordered. We may not survive, but we will make them pay for every step. Admiral Elena Voss stood on the bridge of the flagship Leviathan, leading the Eastern Assault Force toward the collective's last stronghold. On the main viewer, she could see the other prongs of the attack, Colonel Drake's surface forces advancing from the west, and the aerial squadrons from the south led by newly promoted Major Parker. All forces in position, Captain Reed reported from his station. Waiting for your command. Voss checked the time. The coordinated attack was scheduled to begin in exactly 10 minutes. After 18 months of fighting, the war was finally coming to an end. Start the broadcast, she ordered. Maximum power. Throughout the human fleet, massive sonic projectors activated. The war drums began to beat at their highest intensity yet. The low, rhythmic pounding traveled through air, ground, and water, an unmistakable signal that humanity was coming. Inside the collective stronghold, soldiers fell to their knees as the sound penetrated their defenses. Blood seeped from their auditory organs. Their neural systems, so sensitive to certain frequencies, overloaded with pain. Now Voss commanded. All forces, advance. General Thomas Grant and Director Anna Hayes watched the battle unfold from Deepwater Command. The holographic display showed human forces converging on the last collective position from all directions. They're not surrendering, Hayes noted as the fighting intensified. Despite everything, they continue to resist. Pride, Grant said. They were supposed to conquer us easily. Instead, we humiliated them. Hayes nodded thoughtfully. What do we do with the survivors? There will be some. That's a political question, Grant replied. My job is winning the war. Yours is deciding what comes after. Before Hayes could respond, Chief Engineer Morgan Taylor rushed into the command center. We've done it, she exclaimed. The global sonic network is online. Hayes and Grant exchanged surprised looks. The global sonic network had been Taylor's most ambitious project, linking all of Earth's deepwater stations and surface outposts into a single system that could broadcast the war drums across the entire planet simultaneously. It wasn't supposed to be ready for another week, Grant said. My team worked around the clock, Taylor explained. We can activate it now. Hayes considered this for a moment. Do it, she finally decided. Let's end this. Captain Reed led his strike team through the corridors of the collective command center. The aliens had fought hard, but the sonic weapons had left them disoriented and weak. Most had fallen back to the central chamber, their last line of defense. Prepare for breach, Reed ordered as his team took positions around the sealed door. On my mark. Before he could give the command, a deafening sound filled the air. The war drums, louder than ever before, coming from everywhere at once. Reed's team was protected by their special headgear, but he knew the collective soldiers inside would be experiencing unimaginable pain. "What is that?" Lieutenant Rice asked, her voice barely audible over the thunderous beating. "The global network," Reed realized. "They've activated it early." He didn't wait any longer. "Breach now." The door blew open, and Reed's team stormed into the central chamber. They found dozens of collective soldiers writhing on the floor, completely incapacitated by the sonic assault. In the center, High Commander Vex stood alone, bleeding from his hearing organs but still defiant. "Cease the sound," Vex managed to say through his translator. "We surrender." Reed signaled to headquarters, and moments later, the drums reduced to a more tolerable level, still present, but no longer debilitating. "Your surrender is accepted," Reed told Vex. "The war is over." 3 days later, Director Hayes stood with Admiral Voss, General Grant, and Captain Reed on a beach near what had once been the collective's main landing zone. The remaining alien ships were taking off, carrying the surviving invaders back to space. "Do you think they'll come back?" Reed asked as they watched the ships shrink into the distance. "Not them," Grant said confidently. "They've learned their lesson. But others might someday. And we'll be ready," Voss added. "The deep-water stations will remain operational. Earth will never be caught unprepared again." Hayes nodded in agreement. "We should send them a message, though. Something to take back to any other species thinking of invading Earth." "I think we already have," Reed said, pointing to a nearby hill. On top of the hill stood a simple monument the surface teams had erected, a large drum with a plaque that read, "To those who thought they had won. The drums are always beating." "Fitting," Hayes said with a smile. "Now comes the hard part, rebuilding what was lost." The last collective ship disappeared from view. Earth was free again. The reconstruction would be challenging, but humanity had proven its resilience. From the depths of the oceans, they had risen to reclaim their world. As night fell, celebrations began around the globe. In city ruins and deep-water stations, in mountain hideouts and forest camps, humans gathered to mark their victory. And everywhere, as a reminder of what they had overcome, the drums played, no longer as weapons, but as symbols of their unity and strength. The enemy had thought they won, until they heard the war drums. Now those drums would echo through the stars, a warning to any who might threaten Earth again. Humanity was not to be underestimated. Humanity would always rise again. The drums would always beat.